Dúile Gavin.
Catherine. A Carja Glass. 11 weeks. In 11 weeks' time, the Green Party will face the most important and challenging election in its history. The upcoming local government elections are undoubtedly a huge challenge for our party. But these elections are also a very real opportunity for the Greens to initiate a green renaissance, to win old friends back, and more importantly, to build new friendships. We are in the process of making our political comeback, and this time we will sow the seeds of our green philosophy deeper than ever before. Our track record in local government is second to none. No one does local politics in a fairer, more sustainable and safer way. We all know this, but we cannot take it for granted that we have effectively communicated this message to the electorate. This is why, in the coming weeks, we must remind the electorate of the Green Party's honourable track record in local government. As we face the local elections, we should remind the electorate of two significant powers exercised by elected county councillors. Two very important roles where the responsibility and trust of the people cannot be greater. Firstly, the rezoning of land, which plans and implements the vision, the pathway, the roadmap for our communities for generations to come. And secondly, the selling of public lands, and not just the sale of this land, but ensuring that independent expert valuations are obtained and deciding the best mode of sale. The stakes cannot be higher in respect of these decisions, and we have seen how bad and corrupt planning decisions, incompetent decisions in the past, have scarred and blighted our communities to this very day. Yes, the responsibility and trust cannot be greater. And unfortunately, the findings of the Mahon Tribunal showed that local politics has been maligned, corrupted, often used and abused for party political gains and vested interests. But the Green voice could always be trusted, could always be relied upon in local government. And it is the job of each and every one of us, when canvassing, when being interviewed, when on social media, when chatting to friends and colleagues, it is up to us to remind the people that Green councillors always acted in, always voted in the best interests of their communities. Remind the people that Green councillors do local government well. So when it is said that the entire body politic all partied in the good old Celtic Tiger days, we're all in it together. We're all part and parcel of the auction politics which led to the Celtic bubble bursting. We must correct this stereotyped assertion. We must emphasise the proud tradition and valuable input of Green councillors in local government chambers throughout the length and breadth of this island. We Greens stood alone during those years. We highlight the corruption as it happened. We unreservedly condemned it. We were never afraid to speak out. Indeed, a young Trevor Sargent, then serving his community as a local councillor, did just that when he stood up and was counted at a time when politics was rotten to its core. And the findings of the Mahon report singled out Councillor Sargent's lone courageous stand at that time. Yes, Green councillors have always and will always do the right thing. And we should be proud. although sometimes we may forget or take it for granted, we should be proud that the Green Party never ever suffered the eternal shame of having an adverse finding against any member of our party by any tribunal of inquiry. But members, as we look to election day on May 23rd, we must also remember where this party is coming from. The reality is that our party suffered its biggest electoral losses in its history. 2 massive hits. The local government elections of 2009, when so many hard-working, dedicated Green councillors lost their seats, followed by the decimation of the parliamentary party in the general election of 2011, when a Green voice was lost from our national parliament, almost wiping us out as a political force. In fact, some political commentators predicted it was permanently green lights out for us. Those political prophets of doom underestimated our green resolve, our unique political history, forgetting that we were not born out of or fragmented from civil war politics. So the Cassandra-like predictions of demise could never apply to the Green Party. They clearly had forgotten that this is no ordinary party. Our party has a very different political value system. We were never going away because we were duty-bound to fight for something that's worth fighting for. Those political commentators underestimated and perhaps continue to underestimate the energy, the focus, the commitment, the resilience in this room today. Because as I look around me, I am aware of the Trojan voluntary work being done by so many candidates, by so many members and supporters of the Green family, prepared to get stuck in, prepared to fight for something worth saving, and battle for the very existence of our party. This incredible work and effort has managed against the political odds to place us on the possible threshold, on the cusp of recovery, has positioned us to achieve, to realise the next essential steps in our fight back, to succeed, to restore the Green voice once again to Irish politics. And delegates, it is always potentially dangerous to single out any one person. But I know you will not only forgive me, but you will appreciate singling out one such totally dedicated member who epitomises our Green resolve, our commitment, our never say die attitude, the one and only Alison Martin. Her invaluable full-time party role. You know Alison, she is still working quietly and effectively behind the scenes. And we all have been working quietly behind the scenes. And we, like so many, continue to observe a deep cynicism amongst the electorate, with so many politicians who merely peddle election promises for the sole goal of vote getting. And we have seen over the last few years the contempt of the electorate, particularly for the Labour Party, as it has lost its way and has lost its soul. Only a few weeks ago, the electorate heard first-hand from An Tánaiste and leader of the Labour Party, Eamon Gilmore, at their one-day conference at Enfield, claiming to be, purporting to be a safe custodian and proponent of the Green agenda. He said, "Not only do we talk about the environment, but the Labour Party act to protect the environment." I say, Tánaiste, you may, because election day looms, you may be talking about the environment, but your actions or lack of actions speak louder than any words. Where were the Labour Party's so-called green credentials when the tax breaks for home insulation were axed, the number of homes being insulated has fallen by almost 50%, and the government has actually made it more difficult to qualify for grants. The Labour Party stood by when site valuation tax was ditched for surely the most disorganised, confusing introduction of a tax ever. An indiscriminate grab across the board for monies without any sustainable vision or clarity on how it can be fair or prove helpful to society. And the Labour Party's silence was deafening when a climate change bill was produced without targets. The Labour Party's fun and tricks and temporary courtship at election time of all things green is nothing more than just that. Labour, more than any other party, has let down the green agenda because they always flatter to deceive. At least we know where we stand with all the others. And it's not just on the immense environmental challenges that this government is letting down future generations. As our party's education spokesperson, I am baffled at how Minister Quinn can place in jeopardy a hugely important initiative like the much-needed reform of the junior certificate. Key questions on standards, capacity and equity, which have been repeatedly asked on a number of crucial issues, have not been answered and detail has not been provided. The Minister is rushing through reform on one hand, while ignoring the devastating impact on schools with the actions of his other hand. Teacher numbers have been slashed, class sizes have increased, middle management posts have disappeared, budgets have been dramatically reduced, and thousands of key pastoral resources such as guidance counsellors have been lost. The current junior certificate is in clear need of reform, and a move away from exam-focused system is welcome. But as in so many other areas, what this government calls reform is actually a budget-saving exercise. And we cannot afford to make that mistake in the area of education where real reform is needed. Our children's education must at all times be protected. Minister Quinn needs to address the many unanswered questions surrounding this new Junior Cycle Student Award so that students, parents and teachers know exactly where they stand. It's very simple, Minister Quinn. Put the resources in place. Give proper and sufficient training to teachers and ensure equity amongst schools. I ask you today, Minister, to delay the rolling out of this new junior cycle for one more year. This shouldn't be a personal political project. It should be about our children and delivering real and meaningful reform. 11 weeks, members. We have to show the people that there is a fairer way, a different way. A green voice is also critically important in protecting local heritage, protecting listed buildings, local biodiversity, and ensuring that climate change, which is the greatest challenge of all facing humanity, is not ignored at local level. Delivering proper, safe, and sensible planning, and ensuring our communities have appropriate corresponding infrastructure are all interlinked, one way or another, with climate considerations. And when we refer to heritage, the Green Party also recognises the treasure of our unique language and culture. Protecting our heritage means protecting our language. The Irish-speaking community should not have to take to the streets in their own country to assert their right to speak their native tongue. De míle gaelgóir ó Oileán Éireann a bhaile le déanaí ar chráinne bhaile á clia, lena gartha teanga a éileh. Tugann an cóil éantas glas lán takeíocht don acta seo. Dearg le farag an mána a bhí acu. Glas do ás na Gaeilge an mána atá ag an bartaí seo. "11 weeks, members. 11 weeks to support our candidates for Europe. Eamon Ryan in Dublin, Grace O'Sullivan in the south, Ross Brown in Northern Ireland and Mark Deary in Midlands Northwest. 11 weeks to play our part in what can be the emergence of a new generation of Green councillors. And today, on International Women's Day, I encourage my fellow Green women to play an active part in this campaign as candidates, campaign managers, fundraisers and canvassers. And fellow Green women, it is still not too late to go on the front line of this campaign and make the decision to be a candidate. Women make up only 16% of our locally elected representatives. 52% of this country's population make up a mere 16% of our locally elected representatives. This is unacceptable. Let us change that statistic. Let us lead our councils into a new direction with Green women at the forefront. Yes, members, we took the electoral body blows of 2009 and again in 2011. Down, but far from knockout. We got back up together, united, determined. Not only have we not gone away, we have been quietly working, consolidating, organising to put in place a very different political choice for the electorate. 11 weeks, members. 11 weeks. It's time to move up a gear. Our fate is in our hands, no one else's. Let us put honour, transparency, decency, good stewardship at the heart of governance. Let's restore those much needed Green voices in the council chambers of our country. We are reaching the end of our marathon. The finish line is Friday, the 23rd of May. We are ready, we are able, and I say, bring it on. 11 weeks, members. It's time to be seen. It's time to be heard. It's time to return.